Chi-sung, a gangster, being ordered by his boss, Kim Yong-hee, to kill a professor named Choi. However, Choi had a peculiar request. He wanted to be stabbed in the thigh. Chi-sung disagreed and suggested stabbing him in the lower abdomen, which could be fatal. A heated argument ensued, and eventually, Choi called the police. But instead of the police, the fire department arrived. This caused Chi-sung to lose his temper and stab Choi, leading to his 15-year prison sentence. However, a prosecutor offered Chi-sung a chance at leniency if he testified that the stabbing was ordered by Yong-hee. But Chi-sung remained loyal to his boss and refused, resulting in a 7-year prison sentence. As Chi-sung was escorted into his cell in the high-security prison, he was closely watched by the guards. But just as he was about to be locked up, a familiar whistling sound caught his attention. He scanned the area until he found the source of the sound. It was his childhood friend and former gangster, Soon-tan. Chi-sung was emotional to see his friend, who he thought had been executed due to a death sentence. Soon-tan invited Chi-sung to have lunch at the canteen, where they sat with another inmate. However, their meal was disrupted by a cocky inmate who was known for bullying new prisoners. Despite the bully's taunts, Chi-sung remained unfazed, which angered the bully even more. He then started to target weaker inmates until a vigilant warden intervened and he left the canteen. At the hospital, Yong-hee visits Choi, who had survived the stabbing by Chi-sung. He proposes working together again, but Choi's conditions include Chi-sung's death. After leaving the hospital, Yong-hee takes a hot bath with one of his men and ponders on his gang's financial situation. He realizes that without a business deal with Choi, the gang might run out of funds. Meanwhile, Joo-jun, Yong-hee's subordinate, seeks out Yo-il, Chi-sung's ex-girlfriend, best friend, and former partner in the gang. Chi-sung had given her the address of the prison to visit him. However, Yo-il is furious with Joo-jun and wants nothing to do with gangsters. Inside the prison where Chi-sung is visited by his boss, Yong-hee. Yong-hee assures Chi-sung that he will be released soon, but his expression changes when Chi-sung mentions Soon-tan's name. Yong-hee is surprised to hear that Soon-tan is still alive, and his reaction suggests that he's not happy about it. Meanwhile, Joo-jun visits a small hut where Chi-sung's parents live. He offers them an apartment as a gift from the gang, but Chi-sung's father refuses it, saying that he doesn't want to accept money earned through illegal means. He also refuses to visit Chi-sung in prison and only hopes that his son will repent soon. As Joo-jun looks around the hut, he comes across an old photo of himself, Chi-sung, and Soon-tan as children. This triggers a flood of memories, and Joo-jun reminisces about the good times they had together, like taking mud baths. Later that night, Joo-jun recounted stories of his childhood friendship with Soon-tan to his friends. However, their conversation was interrupted by the news that Soon-tan was actually still alive. Joo-jun was taken aback by the revelation, and his mind was still occupied by the news when some soldiers entered the tavern to eat. Joo-jun, feeling provoked by their presence, began to taunt and ridicule them. This led to a heated altercation, and they were all apprehended and taken to the police station. At the station, Joo-jun admitted that he couldn't tolerate being called a gangster by the soldiers. The police tried to mediate and reconcile the two parties, and Joo-jun eventually promised that if he ever crossed paths with the soldiers again, they would pay a deadly price. Meanwhile, in prison, Chi-sung stumbled upon a secret tunnel in his cell. It was revealed that the tunnel had been dug by Nak-yeon, and it was being used to smuggle in food and liquor. This tunnel would later prove to be a possible escape route for Chi-sung and his fellow inmates. The following day, Chi-sung and Soon-tan were having lunch when a battered bald man sat down in front of them, covering his face. He explained that he had been beaten up by a troublesome inmate. Without hesitation, Chi-sung sought revenge on behalf of the bald man. As a result, he was promptly thrown into diesel isolation, and Joo-jun's planned visit was thwarted. Meanwhile, Chi-sung's reputation as a former knife expert and bouncer became the talk of the prison. Many inmates were afraid of him, but his isolation diminished his authority. Sandwiched between a serial killer and a communist in the adjacent cells, Chi-sung was forced to act as an intermediary when the two wanted to communicate. Meanwhile, Professor Choi had developed a new type of drug that could be sold in supermarkets as either jelly or chips. Yong-hee was pleased, but Choi refused to supply the product unless Chi-sung was eliminated. Later that night, another gangster boss, Song Bong-sig, arrived at the hut belonging to Chi-sung's parents with his men and ordered them to destroy it. Bong-sig held a grudge against Chi-sung for rendering his leg limp. The following day, Yong-hee's men paid a visit to one of their own who was imprisoned. However, during the visit, the prisoner badmouthed Chi-sung, which infuriated the bald man who had a strong allegiance to Chi-sung. The bald man found himself in a dilemma as he was torn between loyalty to Chi-sung and the desire to avenge the insult. A few days later, Bong-sig arrived at Yong-hee's headquarters with the intention of collaborating with the gang. However, Ju-jung appeared unhappy about the arrangement. Bong-sig then disclosed that he had sought revenge on Chi-sung's parents. The news sent Ju-jung into a panic, prompting him to rush to Chi-sung's parents' house, which had been destroyed. Upon arriving, Ju-jung found that Chi-sung's parents had suffered severe injuries. Without hesitation, he took them to the hospital for medical attention. Meanwhile, Yoil arrived at the prison to visit Chi-sung and wasted no time in breaking the devastating news of his parents' hospitalization. She revealed that they were attacked by gangsters, sending Chi-sung into a fit of rage. Overwhelmed with emotions, he sought refuge in the bathroom to cry in solitude. However, as he let his guard down, the bald man appeared from behind and mercilessly stabbed him. Despite being defenseless, Chi-sung remained calm, and his resignation left the bald man feeling guilty for his actions. Following the attack, Chi-sung was rushed to the hospital, and Soon-tan, who witnessed the aftermath, was furious and determined to find the culprit. However, the wardens attempted to block his efforts. Later that night, the arrogant prisoner was summoned by the warden and accused of being the perpetrator responsible for stabbing Chi-sung. Despite the suspicions, the prisoner refused to confess to the crime. The news of Chi-sung's stabbing quickly made its way to Ju-jung, who confronted his men about the matter. He soon discovered that the attack was a direct order from Yong-hee, causing him to become furious with his superior. Ju-jung then visited Chi-sung in the prison hospital, where he learned that Bong-sig was the one responsible for the attack and that his gang had betrayed Chi-sung. The revelation fueled Chi-sung's desire for revenge. Upon his return from the hospital, Ju-jung lied to Yong-hee, claiming that Chi-sung was still unconscious. Yong-hee used this opportunity to persuade Professor Choi to speed up the production of drugs, taking advantage of the professor's trust in him. Ju-jung couldn't hide his disappointment with Yong-hee, who had ordered Chi-sung's death. The next day, Yong-hee received the news that Bong-sig's men had attacked his bar, prompting him to declare war. Meanwhile, Chi-sung recovered from his injuries and was escorted back to prison to serve the remainder of his sentence. His cellmates were thrilled to see him return, and the next day he revealed an escape plan designed by Nak-yeong. The plan involved an underground tunnel, but it ended up leading to a military-owned area, resulting in the plan's failure. After their initial plan failed, Chi-sung and his fellow inmates searched for a new way out of prison. During lunch, Nak-yeong suggested that the prison wall was poorly constructed and could be torn down with enough manpower. The inmates immediately mobilized to try and tear down the wall, but it only cracked slightly, forcing them to abandon the plan. Undeterred, they took turns digging tunnels in their cells every night. However, their hopes were dashed once again when they were informed that they would be moving cells due to renovations in the prison. Despite the setback, Chi-sung refused to give up. He made the bold decision to attempt to break through the prison wall alone. Yong-hee's gang was practicing shooting in preparation for their upcoming fight with Bong-sig's gang. However, since firearms were banned in South Korea, they appeared amateurish. During Ju-jung's turn to shoot, he accidentally hit a jet plane, causing it to crash into the nearby prison, and the cracked wall collapsed, giving Chi-sung the opportunity to escape. The incident made national news, and Yong-hee was worried. Meanwhile, Nak-yeong, Chi-sung's cellmate, was being interrogated for leaking information to the authorities. During the hostage situation at a photo studio, Chi-sung and his friends changed clothes and watched the news, discovering that Nak-yeong had betrayed them. After being called by Chi-sung, Yoil arrived with money and a cell phone, and advised him on his next move. The following night, Chi-sung and his friends went straight to Professor Choi's factory and quickly took down all of Yong-hee's men. The next morning, the factory was destroyed and on fire, leaving Professor Choi furious with Young-hee. As a result, he canceled their collaboration due to Chi-sung's survival. Joo-jung, who didn't take kindly to Choi's decision, beat him up for his insolence. Chi-sung and Soon-tan trailed Bong-sig's car and smashed its glass when the traffic light turned red. Chi-sung then ruthlessly attacked Bong-sig as soon as the light turned green. Later, Chi-sung confronted Joo-jung, who had gathered a troop to fight against him. Despite Joo-jung's request for him to leave, Chi-sung remained determined and refused to back down. Joo-jung challenged him to a one-on-one duel, but he was too weak to fight against his best friend, Chi-sung. Suddenly, Young-hee's men appeared and ordered their henchmen to kill Chi-sung. Joo-jung stepped in and prevented his men from following orders, determined to duel Chi-sung without interference. Despite Joo-jung's efforts, Chi-sung fought off Young-hee's men. Soon-tan and his associates eventually arrived and offered to assist Chi-sung, who initially refused but later accepted their help. While they fought, Young-hee attempted to flee but was chased by Chi-sung. Joo-jung intervened, brandishing a gun and blocking Chi-sung's path. In the chaos, Chi-sung accidentally ran over Joo-jung, and Soon-tan was shot while attempting to stab one of Young-hee's men. Both Soon-tan and Joo-jung died at the scene, and the police arrived and arrested the remaining gang members. The police were in hot pursuit of Young-hee and Chi-sung, but eventually managed to corner them. However, Chi-sung had other plans in mind. He saw this as the perfect opportunity to kill his former friend Young-hee. As he made his way towards him, Joo-jung suddenly intervened and shot Young-hee. Unfortunately, Joo-jung's heroic act cost him his life, as the police immediately opened fire on him. Chi-sung, witnessing the tragic turn of events, rushed over to Joo-jung's lifeless body, realizing that he had lost both him and Soon-tan, another friend. The movie imparts a crucial life lesson about the significance of friends in our lives. It reminds us that our friends are our constant companions who stand by us through thick and thin, providing unwavering support and assistance. No matter what obstacles we face in life, our friends will always be there to offer a helping hand.